Hi, my name is Anna Deignan, and I am a publications and advanced publications teacher. That means the yearbook program. Um, and I'm going to share my screen with you to start my first ever back to school night online pre-recorded presentation. So bear with me for just a moment here. Okay, so I'm going to start my slideshow. So I teach the publications and advanced publications class. I'm actually called the yearbook advisor because it's very much a student-run class, and I am advising them on the steps of producing our very high-quality yearbook that comes out typically in the spring. So a little bit about me. This is my 8th year teaching in the district. I'll move my spot over here a little bit. I graduated from Boston College with a history degree. I got my master's in education after that. But my first job out of college was for a business magazine where I was a writer and editor and researcher. So I have a little bit of publishing background. But I'm currently teaching the Learning Skills program, this yearbook class, and I'm co-teaching an English 9 class this year. I like to travel, ski, hike, spend time with friends, and I currently have an 5th grader and a 7th grader at Stanley. Okay, so I have been getting a lot of questions from my students and even other teachers, like, what's going on with yearbook? How are we going to pull this off? My students may be asking themselves, why are we doing this and why now? My answer is that really we are documenting a very important piece of history every year when we produce the yearbook, but I think this year it's even more important. I'm probably the same age as many of you, and I know that in my time here, this is probably the most historic year of my life, and so it's an extra challenge and an extra opportunity to document a very extraordinary year. I also think that yearbook's a great way to connect with your school, and it's a fun class that helps us engage, get to know one another, and it teaches skills that many of these other classes don't teach. So the functions of a yearbook, I tell my students, it's a memory book and a picture book. So we're capturing student life, and it's a reference book for all of the students that attend our school, but it's also a piece of history, as well as a business venture. So our students are going to be engaged in selling ads and distributing the yearbook and all kinds of things that involve budgets and all of that. It's also a real world educational experience. And what I tell my students is that unlike another class where you are working in a silo, submitting work, we are all working in a highly collaborative environment where the failure to meet a deadline or to turn in some work really burdens your classmates. And for this reason, I think it's very much like holding down a real job or being in a business where we have consequences besides just grades. And then also the yearbook is used as a public relations tool for people in our community that want to know, what is Lafayette like? Here are just a couple fun spreads of different things that we're capturing in terms of student life. But we also look at historic moments. So we obviously have an election coming up, and this is a good opportunity to capture the political scene and an important historic event. So I think that's going to be a fun spread to do and something that we'll get creative with. Here again, we're talking, this is a spread that a different high school did, but this type of spread is even more important now, where we're really trying to capture what is going on in our world and how does Akalani's fit into that. A little bit about the class format. I mentioned before, it's student run. I'm an advisor, and we have 6 editors that are all returning students who are wanting to step up into more of a leadership role. So I have 2 co-head editors, 2 head writers, and 2 photography editors. And those students are really making up the assignments, driving the instruction in the class, holding students to their deadlines. The rest of the staff is divided up into groups of writers and photographers, and they're put into teams where they're working together to design their spreads and the coverage that we want to have. The assignments sort of come in 2-week deadlines. So about every 2 weeks, starting in a few weeks, they'll have deadlines, and they kind of come up on us quickly. And each deadline has a draft These will be published in our in Canvas, so they know their deadlines. A little bit about outside class time. There is an expectation that students are doing work outside of their class time. We all know that sports is very much up in the air, as well as most student activities on campus. But if and when we go back, there will be times where students are asked to attend a sporting event, a school dance. Even if we are not doing some of those things, there will be times where they're covering different events, obviously in a safe way, given some of our restrictions. But so there is an expectation. If you had a child who was, involved in, competitive gymnastics where they were gone, 40 hours a week, this wouldn't be a good class. But I think most of the people here that I have now understand that. And we do have strict deadlines. And so I have not a lot of flexibility about turning things in late. Students are expected to get their work in on time. It does have big consequences when they don't. Obviously, things come up where events are canceled. But the part of this that I really need them to understand is if there is an event, a championship game or a dance, if you miss that as a photographer, you are not able to reproduce that event. And so it has lasting consequences for our yearbook. Here's just a fun quote. They've done some research about different types of students that take different classes. And there's something that came out of Indiana University saying journalism kids do better. And so it tells us that students who are involved in journalism and publishing have higher GPAs and test scores, which isn't as important to me, is really that they're more involved in leadership roles and they're more active volunteers. I think that leads students to be successful in careers long-term, potentially in college, just understanding what that collaborative process is like and how to work together as a team. So that is a brief overview of my class. I know I have many returning students, which is a great sign. And so some of you are familiar with this, but I also have some new faces. So I look forward to meeting you and meeting your children in person, not just over Zoom. And I wanted to say a special thank you to LPI, who've raised a lot of money for programs. We couldn't do it without your support. And lastly, I have my email here. I'm also accessible on Canvas. I'm happy to meet over Zoom with parents, not just students, as well as speak to you over the phone if you have questions. I look forward to it, and thanks again so much for keeping your students healthy and safe and for all you do to support us. Okay, take care.